The Second Vatican Council, commonly known as Vatican II, was a Catholic council held in Rome from 1962 to 1965. The council was called by Pope John XXIII with the intention of updating the Church's teachings and practices to better reflect the changing world and the needs of modern Catholics. So what are the main points of the Second Vatican Council? Let's get started. This controversial council has stirred the Catholic world and has made some quarters within Catholicism deny this very council, and by so doing they made themselves no longer under the authority of the Pope, and thus technically making themselves potential heretics. There were several Catholic groups who resisted the reforms of the Second Vatican Council. Some of the most notable examples include the Traditionalist Catholics. Traditionalist Catholics are those who reject the reforms of Vatican II and continue to uphold traditional Catholic practices such as the use of the Latin Mass and the adherence to pre-Vatican II teachings and discipline. Some traditionalist groups such as the Society of St. Pius X were formed in direct response to the reforms of Vatican II. The Integrists. The Integrists are Catholic traditionalists who believe that the reforms of Vatican II were invalid and that the Church should return to its pre-Vatican II practices and teachings. Some Integrists have gone so far as to reject the authority of the post-Vatican II Church and its leaders. The Lefebvrist Catholics. The Lefebvrist Catholic movement, also known as the Society of St. Pius X, is a traditional Catholic group that was formed in response to the reforms of Vatican II. The Lefebvrists reject the changes made by Vatican II, including its teachings on religious freedom and ecumenism, and continue to use the Latin Mass. The Neo-Conservatives. The Neo-Conservatives are a group of conservative Catholics who reject the liberal reforms of Vatican II and the changes made to liturgical practices and discipline. They believe that the Church should return to its pre-Vatican II traditions and teachings. So those are just a few examples of the Catholic groups who resisted the reforms of the Second Vatican Council. While these groups are a minority within the Catholic Church, they've had a significant impact on the Church, and they continue to challenge its teachings and practices. So here are some of the important points of Vatican II. Number 1. Ecclesiology. The Council emphasized the role of the laity in the Church and the importance of the priesthood and of all the believers. This led to a greater sense of shared responsibility and involvement among lay Catholics. Examples. First, involvement in parish life. Lay Catholics were encouraged to take on greater responsibilities in their parishes, such as serving as lectors, altar servers, and members of parish councils. This led to a greater sense of ownership and responsibility for the life of the parish community. Second, participation in liturgy. The emphasis on liturgical renewal in Vatican II encouraged lay Catholics to actively participate in the liturgy, rather than simply observing it. This led to a greater sense of shared ownership and a more meaningful experience of the Mass for many lay Catholics. Third, social action and advocacy. Vatican II's emphasis on social justice has led to a greater sense of responsibility among lay Catholics to work for the common good and to advocate for the poor and marginalized. This has inspired many lay Catholics to become involved in social justice initiatives and advocacy efforts. Fourth, renewal of religious life. Vatican II encouraged a renewal of religious life, including the consecrated life of religious orders and the lay vocation of lay people. This led to a greater sense of shared responsibility for the mission of the Church, as well as a deeper appreciation of the unique gifts and talents of lay Catholics. Fifth, ecumenism and interfaith dialogue. The emphasis on ecumenism in Vatican II encouraged lay Catholics to engage in dialogue with other Christians and members of other religions. This led to a greater sense of shared responsibility for promoting peace and understanding between different faith communities. The second important impact of Vatican II is on the liturgy. Vatican II emphasized the importance of liturgical renewal and the active participation of the faithful in the liturgy. This led to changes in the way Mass was celebrated, such as the use of vernacular language, the facing of the altar by the priest and the people, and the use of new liturgical music. Examples. First, use of vernacular language. Prior to Vatican II, the Mass was celebrated in Latin, which was the official language of the Church. Vatican II emphasized the importance of the active participation of the faithful, and as a result, many parishes began to celebrate the Mass in the local vernacular language. This allowed the faithful to more fully participate in the liturgy and understand the prayers and hymns being sung. Second, facing the altar by the priest and people. Prior to Vatican II, the priest celebrated the Mass facing away from the people and towards the altar. Vatican II emphasized the importance of active participation by the faithful, and as a result, many parishes began to celebrate the Mass with the priest and people facing each other. This created a more communal and participatory atmosphere during Mass. Third, use of new liturgical music. Vatican II emphasized the importance of liturgical renewal, and as a result, many parishes began to incorporate new liturgical music into the celebration of Mass. This included the use of contemporary hymns and gospel music, as well as the revival of traditional liturgical music. This helped create a more vibrant and engaging liturgical experience for the faithful. Fourth, a greater focus on the Eucharist. Vatican II emphasized the centrality of the Eucharist in the life of the Church, and as a result, many parishes began to focus more on the celebration of the Eucharist and the receiving of communion. This helped to deepen the spiritual experience of the faithful and to foster a greater sense of community among the faithful. Third, ecumenism. The Council called for greater cooperation and dialogue between Catholics and other Christians, as well as with members of other religions. This led to a renewed emphasis on ecumenism and interfaith dialogue within the Catholic Church. Examples. First, the establishment of the Pontifical Council for promoting Christian unity. Second, joint worship and common prayer between different Christian denominations. Third, interfaith dialogue with other religions such as Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, etc. Fourth, participation in interreligious gatherings and events such as the World Peace Day. Fifth, the Catholic Church official documents and statements promoting greater understanding and cooperation between different faith communities. Sixth, faith communities. There is a greater and more participation among local communities within the community of, such as a parish or a local diocese. Seventh, the celebration of interfaith marriages and the recognition of baptism performed by other Christian denominations. 8th, the inclusion of non-Catholic Christian leaders in Catholic events and meetings. 9th, the establishment of theological dialogues and joint statements with other Christian denominations. 10th, the creation of joint committees and working groups to address common concerns and challenges facing different faith communities. 11th, the promotion of interfaith education and the study of different religious traditions. Number 4. Religious freedom. Vatican II emphasized the importance of religious freedom, including the freedom of conscience as a fundamental human right. This was seen as a response to the oppressive religious policies of some governments at the time. Example, first, the issuance of the Declaration on Religious Freedom, Dignitatis Humanae, by the Council, which affirmed the right of individuals to freely practice their religion and the responsibility of governments to protect this right. Second, the condemnation of religious persecution and the promotion of religious tolerance. Third, the call for dialogue and cooperation between religious communities and governments. Fourth, the establishment of the Secretariat for Non-Believers to address the needs and concerns of people of no particular religious affiliation. Fifth, the encouragement of interfaith dialogue and understanding. Sixth, the promotion of religious education and the right to receive a religious formation. Seventh, the protection of religious minority rights, especially in countries where a particular religion is dominant. Eighth, the rejection of the use of force or coercion in matters of religion. Ninth, the promotion of peace and justice through interfaith cooperation. 10th, the encouragement of religious leaders to participate in public life and contribute to the common good of society. Number 5. Social justice. The Council called for a greater emphasis on social justice and the duty of the Church to care for the poor and marginalized. This led to a renewed commitment to social action and advocacy by the Catholic Church. Examples of the Catholic Church commitment to social justice after Vatican II include: first, promotion of human dignity. The Catholic Church has worked to promote the dignity of every human person, regardless of their background or status. This has led to efforts to address issues such as poverty, homelessness, and hunger. Second, advocacy for the marginalized. The Church has advocated for the rights of marginalized groups such as refugees, migrants, and indigenous peoples, and has sought to address the social, economic, and political issues that affect them. Third, support for the poor. The Catholic Church has continued to provide support for the poor and vulnerable through its extensive network of charitable organizations such as Catholic Charities, as well as through advocacy efforts aimed at addressing poverty and economic inequality. Fourth, the promotion of human rights. The Catholic Church has been a strong voice for human rights, working to protect the rights of all people, including religious freedom, the right to life, and the right to access education and health care. Fifth, environmental protection. The Catholic Church has emphasized the importance of protecting the environment, including the call to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and combat climate change, and has encouraged efforts to promote sustainability and care for God's creation. Number 6. Relations with the modern world. The Vatican II emphasized the importance of engaging with the modern world and the Catholic Church's role in promoting the dignity of every human person. This led to a greater openness to contemporary culture and a more positive attitude towards the science, the arts, and other aspects of modern life. Here are some examples of the Catholic Church engagement with the modern world in response to Vatican II's emphasis on this theme. First, dialogue with the sciences. The Catholic Church has become more open to the scientific method and findings, and has sought to integrate science and religion in a harmonious way. Second, engagement with culture. The Catholic Church has become more involved in the arts and cultural life, encouraging the creation of new forms of liturgical music, art, and architecture. Third, collaboration with secular institutions. The Catholic Church has entered into partnerships and collaborations with the secular institutions, such as universities and non-profit organizations, to address social and economic issues. Fourth, encouragement of lay involvement. The Catholic Church has encouraged lay people to become more involved in the life and mission of the Church, including in areas such as education, healthcare, and social justice. Fifth, promotion of interfaith dialogue. The Catholic Church has increased its efforts to promote interfaith dialogue and understanding, engaging in dialogue with people of other religions, and fostering greater understanding and respect between different faith traditions. So in summary, the Vatican II was a significant event in the history of the Catholic Church, and its impact is still felt today. The Catholics' emphasis on the role of the laity, liturgical renewal, ecumenism, religious freedom, social justice, and the Catholic Church's relationship with the modern world helped to shape the Church's teachings and practices for a new era. So, what do you think? Should we follow or support the Vatican II? Is it in line with our Catholic faith? You bet.